again doing the live from another platform. We're going to see how this works instead because I noticed that the other platform wasn't the best, and I kind of wanted to be able to see the different people that are coming on and kind of what their comments are. But you see up there that it says that his $100 million oil plan, and that's just right in your face. You can't get blatant any more blatant than that. That the whole intention was to simply get oil, and you all should not be okay with the United States leadership from the United States going into another country because they want to steal their resources. Like, what are we doing? We are not in the 17th century. This is not, it's not supposed to go down like that in the greatest nation in the earth, on the earth, right? That is not what being great is about. I don't care what anyone says. That is not making America great, nor is it making America great again. America should not be known to be bullies. That's not what we should be about. Hey, Naira Vox, thank you so much for coming in. As you can see, pretty much the caption kind of speaks for itself, that we once again are bullying another nation for their resources. And we didn't, it's like we didn't learn from our invasion of Iraq, right? Because that's what that was about. It was about controlling the petroleum so that Russia wouldn't get their hands on it or China wouldn't get their hands on it. And with a recent interview with Stephen Miller, who's the deputy chief of staff under our current president, he was on an interview with Tapper recently, and he even said, and I'm going to do even more of a video on it later, he even said that they wanted to get into Venezuela to confiscate that oil before Russia or China gets access to it. He said that because Venezuelan businessmen, oil businessmen, were not really okay with working with the United States when it comes to oil shares and access to oil. They were going to take Venezuela so Russia and China wouldn't have access. Now, if that's not a bully, I don't know what is, right? So this is where, not trying to be negative, I'm just being real about it. What reason would we have to go into they call it a third world country like a Venezuela, other than the oil? Because we can't say it was some type of smugs, because if it was smugs, then we would be hitting China because they're known for their fentanyl, bringing it into our country, right? If it was cocaine, well, we shouldn't have, the POTUS should not have given pardon to the former president of Honduras, who was found guilty of creating and distributing over 400 tons of cocaine in the United States. He wouldn't have pardoned him if it was a war on schmugs. If it was a war on schmugs, then Afghanistan, who produces over 90% of, I want to say it's opium, but I want to say it's opium. Check it out. It's one of those. Yeah, I think it is opium for the entire world. But what do we do under this regime? We took all of our troops out. So those are just three. Myanmar is another one. Thailand, I think it's opium for them as well. And we put him in. We put that I don't know if they're president or if they're prime minister, but we put them in again to be a puppet. So that goes against the whole story, because it's a white lie as to why we invaded Venezuela. And Americans, if you truly say that you're an American, then you should not be okay with the fact that we invaded a country for their natural resources. You should not be okay with them lying to you and telling you that they went in because he was a dictator. Because there are several dictators. Why not go to China with Xi Jinping? Xi Jinping. Why not go into Russia with Putin? Why not go into South Korea with I feel bad I can't remember his name, but these are dictators. They're known to be dictators. They're known to be destructive and mean and brutal to their citizens. But you're not going in there. You're going to the what the leadership, the pale face leadership, is calling third world or S-hole countries, and there's basically black and brown people. And I don't care how anybody wants to smooth it out or make it look pretty. The fact of the matter is we went into Venezuela because we wanted to consume their oil, because we did not want Russia or China to take the oil or to take control of the oil. And the the fact of the matter is we are spreading ourselves so thin that we are becoming so susceptible to attack. And it's not a if, it's a when. And what we're not grasping as just regular schmegular American citizens is if we don't pay attention to what's going on now, the roundup of the Venezuelans and on American soil and shipping them off to another country, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because they're going to find ways to put you all not in concentration camps because that's too harsh, but a martial law is going to happen after these midterms if the Republicans lose, and they're setting y'all up for like a precursor. They're really kind of testing the waters. They wanted to see how you all would respond. And by you all not responding, you are being even, to them, you're complacent. To them, you're saying, I agree with the United States going into other countries and just deboing them and taking their land and taking their oil and taking their resources, their minerals, their diamonds, whatever the case may be. Our oil companies don't want any parts. You know what? So they say. And thank you so much for coming in, Queen Sunkiss, because we're hearing different views on that. Um, and kind of a stay tuned for more. But according to Stephen Miller, who was on Jay Tapper, on with Jay Tapper, he basically said, and you too, because you're very much into this kind of stuff, I would encourage you all to go and check out that interview for yourself, because I don't want to allow anyone, I'm not about that, but it's really to bring it to people's attention. Hey, Soundbars 1976, thank you so much for coming in and just, sharing some space with me. I'm just really sharing with the audience about a recent interview that I heard and saw myself with Jay Tapper and Stephen Miller, who's the deputy chief of staff, I think, or is it the chief of staff? He's basically the right hand man of Donald Trump, our president of the United States, and he was basically trying to excuse why the United States invaded Venezuela. Initially, he said that it was for the freedom of the Venezuelan people. When Jay Tapper asked him a simple question, well, when are you all going to do elections so that they can vote for a leader? Miller basically just blew off that question. And so Jay Tapper basically was asking him, okay, well, if that's not a big to do, if that's not a priority, then basically why are you here? Why are you there? Well, it must have, because Stephen Miller, along with his wife, they get very emotional and very sensitive when certain trigger words, I guess, people mention, they just lose their minds, because he went off on a tangent and he began to explain to Jake Tapper that America can basically take whatever we want to take because we're America. And I'm not kidding. Check it out. This is kind of what he's saying. Jake Tapper gives him an example, and I'll get back to Greenland in a minute. Um, but he asked them for a meeting yesterday. Oh, really? Okay, well, let me know about it. You know what I'm saying? Put down there what they talked about, Miss Sun Queen, because I want to see what that's about. But basically, Stephen Miller told Jay Tapper that the reason why the United States invaded Venezuela was to get their oil because the people down there, the businessmen, did not necessarily want to do business with the United States. They wanted to go and basically collaborate with other countries. Well, according to Stephen Miller, that's not going to happen on his watch. So before countries, and he said enemies, for countries like Russia and China got access to Venezuelan oil, they decided to go down there and take Maduro and then take control of the oil so that everybody would have to go through the United States to get Venezuelan oil. Now, I know that sounds crazy, y'all. I know it does. So that's why I say anybody on any of my platforms, I encourage you all to go check the stuff out for yourself because it's a lot. If I didn't see the man's mouth saying this, and honestly, he was so confident and arrogant as he was saying it, I wouldn't have believed it myself. On that same note, there was an arrogance when Jay Tapper mentioned Greenland. Jay Tapper mentioned the fact that 30,000 citizens of Greenland had to be reassured by the Danish leaders that that was not going to happen. And Stephen Miller basically said, yes, it will, yes, it can, and yes, it should, because Greenland would be, I think he called it militarily strategic in the Arctic region. And what that means is basically we trying to get up there and put our little flag up before a Russia or a China. And again, these are things that it's not just me saying it. I want y'all to think outside the box and look at the behaviors because the United States, the government it's like a mafia. It's truly like an organization. Like this is who they are. And if you don't go along with this regime, because it's a regime, if they don't, then basically you will have to lie down. And if that's not more of a dictatorship mindset, I don't know what is. This is it. It is not a democracy, right? Because freedom of speech, every time we turn around, it's being censored. Baby, these people gonna tear the USA. I'm trying to tell you, I am trying to tell you, Miss Queen, they are going to hit us north, east, south, and west. And because we are depleting our military with all of this other stuff, we're not gonna have anyone to protect us internally. Listen, I've been predicting this for some, at least a decade, anybody that's in politics could have seen this coming a long time ago, and it hasn't get the imperial military of the United States. Okay, that part, right? And it's not funny, but it is. It's not funny, but it is. It's tragic, if you will. You know what I'm saying? So it's not for anybody that's listening. It's not that I'm anti-American and all that good stuff. Actually, just the opposite. Because I am an American, I can have my freedom of speech. I can analyze. I can, look at, view things, observe things, and make assessments. And the fact that I've been canvassing in politics since mid '90s for Democrats, I call them demon rats, for the repugnants, along with the Green Party. So I do not have an affiliation for one or the other. I was off several plantations decades ago, and I will continue to stay off the plantation so that I can actually speak about all of them objectively and just really give you the facts of what's going on and how it is affecting our day-to-day lives. Like, we're not paying attention that What they're doing to Venezuela is just literally a test of what they're going to be doing to us domestically if we allow what happened to Venezuela to continue without there being any repercussions. Like, I'm not understanding why white American citizens are not rioting, are not in the street saying, no, this is not according to our Constitution. This is not how we're supposed to be doing things. We're supposed to set the standard, not be substandard. And yet, this is kind of what's going on in our own backyard. So Maduro is just the beginning, unfortunately. If you all don't step in and do something about it, if y'all don't step in to do something about this, there are going to be other countries like Greenland that's up there not bothering anybody. That's really just enjoying the weather as cold as it is up there. Probably, you know what I'm saying, doing some snow fishing or whatnot, maybe some ice skating, that kind of thing, just minding their own business. And here we are trying to say we're going to take over Greenland because we just think it's strategically a good move. Like, forget about the fact that there are human beings there. And that's the thing with America. It has been our pattern. We've gone into several countries and we go and invade, and we say it's in the name of democracy. And yet, we don't produce democracy. We don't help them with their democracy. And our minds, democracy means to us with these other countries, do as we say and not as we do. Period. That's what democracy is to other countries. When we invade and we never leave. And I need for you to just wrap your head around that. When we go and occupy and invade other countries for the sake of democracy, we never leave. Why is that? If it was about helping the people to become democratic, to have their own land, their own voice, why is it that we have to go in there, tear up everything like we did Lebanon, and leave them in shambles? Beirut, like we did in Beirut, leave them in shambles, like we did in Japan, like we did in Chernobyl, like we did in I can just keep going of the different places that we've invaded, and we just left them there. We did that in Iraq, even though trillions of dollars to Iraq. Look, just again something for us to kind of mull over while things are happening, while you're seeing the dynamics taking place with Venezuela in particular. I really implore you to think outside the box and also to do your own research outside of the media outlets that they give you, right? There are several international news outlets that actually are objective and they tell you good, bad, and ugly. And it's always best to kind of step out and look at those resources because it's something that you can compare it to. You can compare what you're being told here on a CNN or Microsoft NBC or Microsoft Now or Fox or any of these domestic media outlets. You can compare and contrast. But if you only listen to these people and these outlets that's controlled by two or three media moguls that's really into the Zionist pockets, you're not going to get an objective view on really what's going on in the world. You will get what they're trying to tell you, what they're spoon feeding you. And let the truth be told, you all should be tired of people spoon feeding you lies, white lies, so that they can continue to travel throughout the world and wreak havoc and destruction, because that's what pale-faced white men do. With and you can call me the R word, it's okay, but when you look at their behavior, that's what they have done for centuries. When you think about them before they even invaded, before the European invasion of 1492, they had over 500 internal wars or conflicts in Europe alone because they couldn't get along with each other. And if they couldn't get along with each other, what makes anyone think that they would have come over here to this native land and actually learn how to get along? That wasn't their intention to begin with. That's unfortunate, but that's what the reality of it was. And from that type of destruction of 400 plus years ago, we're still reaping that same type of destructive behavior because those people had children who had children who had children who where we are now, Frog. Thank you, Frog. GoFo 2608. Good day. So again, it ties into our past. And if we don't know what our true history is, you all, it is so easy for it to be repeated. And that's what's going on now. It is being repeated through a Venezuela. And we should not be okay with how our country is treating or mistreating other countries for our advantage. We should not be okay with going into another country and just, again, kidnapping a man and his wife because you want oil. Americans should not be okay with that. Just like you shouldn't have been okay with having these ICE people round up people. They have criminal backgrounds, by the way, themselves. They have criminal backgrounds, rounding up Venezuelans, shipping them to another country that they don't speak the same. They don't know the culture, putting them in a prison, giving that prison $3.7 million, releasing M13 gang members and basically giving them back to El Salvador. How is that helping the war on schmugs? If that's what they tried to claim we were doing with Venezuela, because that's what they tried to claim initially. They first said that we're going into Venezuela because of the schmugs. Okay, after they tap two innocent shipwrecked boaters, right? It should have been a clue there, but for us, we looked at the fact of, and this is the thing about America, we have to stop with this arrogance. We have to really be objective. We didn't see the fact that Venezuela has been that same type of regime since Hugo Chavez, since 2007 and 8 or so. And he actually uh, distributed oil to mid-eastern states when we were having an oil shortage around that time. So it's that regime has been there for all of this time. Why now are we deciding to invade and kidnap? Because that's what they did. They kidnapped that man and his wife. Why now? Again, Stephen Miller, if you take the time to check out the interview that he had with Jake Tapper on CNN, he will tell you the reason. He said that before America would allow their quote unquote or our quote unquote enemies like a Russia or a China to have access to Venezuelan oil, we will go in there and we will take that oil. He said this. Jay Tapper asked him about having elections for the citizens if they really were claiming it was about having a democracy. You should see the face that Stephen Miller makes. Like, he's like a deer caught in headlights. Like, what? What you mean? an election, this is where, again, we have to read between the lines as Americans. They feed us so much, but we can't continue to look at the symptoms or the behaviors. We have to really understand why our people are doing, and they're not our people, why American leadership is doing what they are doing. And more often than not, the answer is money. The answer is corruption, because that's what they're known to do from the onset of them coming over here with the European invasion. They never had any intention of collaboration. It was always about corruption and competition. So this should not surprise us. What I am surprised about, to be quite honest with you, is that we've become so desensitized to other people and their lived experience. Like, can you imagine a Venezuelan mother that all of a sudden, yeah, it was sucky how they lived down there, might have been, but now you're being told that this dude, the United States came and kicked them out, and you don't know who your leader is now. And the United States is telling you that the woman there, like the vice president, she's really no good. So we're going to basically replace her when we have the time. We just ain't figured it out yet. We're just gonna just occupy and just wait on it. Y'all just deal with whatever y'all got going on until we come decide that we're going to help you. Like, yes, America has always done this, Miss Sun Queen, Miss Queen Sun Kiss. That's exactly right. And will it come a time? Yes, the resources and power. That's exactly what America, unfortunately, is about, and that's what this is. And when will we? When will it come a time where the American citizens actually hold our American leadership accountable? When will it become a time where we become re-engaged in our leadership, in our political system, and not just this is how it was, this is how it is, this is how it's always going to be? When will we take the time to actually hold people accountable? And what does that even look like at this point? That's something that I would pose to, even not just the audience, but anyone that has the opportunity to listen to this live. You should not be happy, you should not be okay saying that you're an American citizen and being okay with the fact that this leadership went and invaded another country for oil. We did that in Iraq, and look what it cost us. The Iraqis are still struggling, but I'm talking about the trillions of dollars that was invested in that country. And it shouldn't have been there. We shouldn't have been there to begin with, but we needed something. We needed, at that point, like I said before, the history behind it is basically goes back to the 80s with the Iran Contra deal with Oliver North, Ronald Reagan. Those cats were having issues with Iran, so we needed somebody over there to be our eyes and ears. So we got Iraq, we got Saddam Hussein, and he was cool for a while because he was getting his money. But then all of a sudden, when Saddam is like, I'm not listening to y'all anymore. Y'all with some bullshit. Excuse my language. I'm not trying to feel it anymore. All of a sudden, people, the American media basically demonized him. Now, he had been ruthless all of this time. You see, that's what I'm saying. The behaviors have been there, even with Saddam, but we overlooked them because he was doing something for us, which is being the eyes and ears over in the Middle East, especially against Iran. So he had his purpose. When Saddam decided he was not going to do that anymore, we demonized him and we took him out. Same thing with Gaddafi in Libya. Yes, the man had, God rest soul, had some rest in power. He wasn't the best. No one is claiming that he was. But I will say that when he was there, they did have free health care. They did have free housing. You know what I'm saying? And there were a couple other things that they did have free that we never had free over here. Not only that, he was working on, hey, El Boogie. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for the replay. I appreciate it. Happy 2026 to you. But with Gaddafi, the main thing that basically Hillary Clinton and the rest of that regime decided he needed to be taken out when he wanted to begin his own currency or African currency with the other 53 nations in Africa. And that freaked the pale faced out, because what will happen to the US dollar if Gaddafi got his way? Because a few of those nations were on board. They were like, you know what, this makes some sense. Let's do this. I'm with this. But what did they do? They went on and make, again, they demonized him and made him the bad guy all of a sudden, and had Americans believing that garbage, because that's what it was. So that's kind of where we have had a history of demonizing brown countries in order to get their resources. Nigeria. Tell me all of a sudden why now you're so concerned about Nigeria and what's going on with the Christians there, when I don't know how long uh, the countries or the tribes in Nigeria have been dealing with that. No one said anything, but they have oil and they have other resources. You said Africa is quietly doing it anyway, girl. I hope so, because I look here. I'm with I don't want to mess up his name. Ibrahim Traore. You know what I'm talking about though. But that brother is doing his thing, and I'm happy. I'm happy for him, and I'm happy for our homeland, because I think that's why Trump missed. Yes, that's exactly why he's in there, Sun Queen. That's exactly why he in Nigeria, and unfortunately, Nigeria. And I'm gonna say this because, and if anybody's from that country or nation that's in here can chime in, that'll be great. But what I have observed from the heads of state, even in Nigeria, they're just they're like an Uncle Ruckus, if you will. Like they're okay with being like puppets, like European puppets. And maybe I've seen something different, but everything that I've seen up until this point, I wouldn't want to fool with Nigeria either. I wouldn't. If I was, African American trying to go back to, Africa, that would not be one of the first nations that I would pick up on because of that. There are a couple of other nations that are, or African nations, that the head of state, or the prime minister, or the president, you can tell they're European puppets. Like they're okay with this whole the colonizer mindset. And that's really, that's a sad state of affairs that we're in. But it kind of leads to, it could be Venezuela now, Nigeria, they're trying to get into. What other countries will the United States, the pale faced leadership, invade when they feel that they want their resources? Like that's, again, I'm not really grasping why American citizens, especially the pale face, I can't even say that, because the brown skin, we don't really care either, and we should care. We should care about what's happening, not just domestically, but internationally as well, because it does affect us. If it doesn't affect us today, it's going to affect us tomorrow or next year. But yet, for whatever reason, it's their problem. That's how we feel about it. And we can't get to that point where we're so desensitized, because that's how the pale face wants us to be, desensitized to what's going on around the world, and also within our own country. And you said, I care because somebody is going to get Miss Queen Sunkissed. It is just a matter of time. It is not a when, it is an if. And I not only do I agree, I concur. Look, I concur, because the chickens are coming home to roost. There's so many times that you can browbeat other countries and other cultures, that you're not going to have some kind of consequence behind that. You see, we've never seen the devastation that these other countries have seen, and it's going to be a sad day, because they're going to, yes, it's going to be a sad day when they show up. Kind of like when you think about 9/11, we were still shocked that somebody had the audacity to come in here and do that, even though some of us know that it was an inside job, Queen. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that it happened, some people are still stunned about that. And to me, that's such an arrogance that we set ourselves up. to be invaded. And again, they said they're going to jump. They are going. They are going to jump us, and I agree with you. And it's not. Listen, it's not a laughing matter. So I don't want you all to think that I think our demise is funny. It's not. Okay, I'm saying what's sad is people like us see the writing on the wall because we actually observe and we actually can critically think and synthesize information and deduce, right? We can do that, even though we're not supposed to because we brown skinned and we sisters. But yes, we can we can do that. And it's not, it's not yeah, it's not a comedy show. If anything, it's more of a what is that? What is it? It's not a God. I can't think of the word right now. Did you see what the UN said? Hold on. Let me read the other one. They're going to jump us. These countries are going to team up. Yes, they're already doing it, Queen. They're already coming together and teaming up. They are, and then we're going to look like. And then let me tell you what I think is going to happen when this starts to happen. The pale faced Americans are going to be like, what's wrong with them? Why are they so angry? I believe that's going to be the response, or they're so ungrateful that if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't have what they have. I can see the pale face responses being something like that. And again, the arrogance of pale faced American citizens is really going to be brought to the forefront when that happens. They're and the, now I did see something about the what I saw. Did you see? Because I love her. The Prime Minister of Barbados, Motley. Did you happen to catch what she said about the Venezuela invasion? Because she was real on hers. She was real on hers, and I didn't know because geography is not our thing over here, and it's sad, but it's not. But I didn't know that Barbados and Venezuela were so close that she was actually talking about that as well. Let's see. I know they already have secret meetings about their future meal. Exactly. And I felt that too. I felt that they were already having secret meetings about our future military action or their actions against us. When I saw like India, Prime Minister of India and China, Jinping, and I want to say Putin. When I saw them together last year, sometime or earlier part of this year, I was like, oh, excuse my language. Oh, hell no. It's really going on now. I'm just, it was, when I saw those three, I was like, it's a wrap. It's completely a wrap. And there's something going on. Don't be shocked and sleep on Japan. Like I'm not really sure. I, I don't know where they stand with us. I'm gonna be real with you because we've been saying some real foul stuff about the woman president or prime minister. I'm not sure if they're called prime minister or president. I think it's prime minister. But we've been saying some real shady stuff about her. The other countries see Trump as a bully and Peter Thiel as his. You know what's crazy though, Queen, is that a lot of people don't even know. A lot of pale-faced American citizens don't know who Peter Thiel is. That's this, or Stephen Miller. That's crazy to me. Like that's like mind blowing to me that we don't even know who they are, let alone how they are affecting and affecting what is going on now and has been Peter Thiel with the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. Yep. Japan is our opportunist. Yes, they very much, whoever kind of wherever they sway, because they haven't forgiven us for um hold on, give me the line. Pearl Harbor and Hiroshima. They really hadn't forgiven us for that. When you think about it, and if you were them, would you? If you were them, would you? I just leave that out there in the atmosphere, in the stratosphere, because we've given them no reason to really f with us. Everything is transactional. It seems like with the United States, the divided states of America, everything is transactional. It's what can you do for me? And our current president is showing just that. Like the other presidents prior to, they were a little more sneaky-fied, if you will, with the fact that it was more transactional. They made it feel good for both parts. This dude don't care how you feel. And Stephen Miller and Peter Thiel could care less about anyone else other than pale-faced rich men. As far as I've seen, our current president is unhinged. Yo, it's not. I think you said it. That's nice. That's a nice way of putting it, right? Because when you think about him, you know, he not only has physical ailments, mental ailments, emotional dysfunction. Some of us feel bad for the American public. Bullies get jumped when people have had enough and find the strength. Well, you know what? I appreciate that, Queen. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I appreciate that, Queen. That y'all feel bad for us. But here's what I say to you: don't cry for me, Argentina. Don't feel bad for American people because we set ourselves up for that. If we had been doing what we were supposed to be doing, which is hold our people accountable way back when, then we wouldn't have this culture and climate that we have right now. That if it doesn't affect us directly, then we don't really care. Do whatever. We'll see you in 4 years. That's on us. That's our politics or the lack thereof. Because it's not a democratic system. I don't care what anyone says. That's not what this is. And yet we claim to everyone, including ourselves, that it is a white lie, you know. And with Frumpleton, we created him. He's simply a remnant of the United States creation. When you think about how we started and the foundation of what this country was formed off of, the only halt with that was, as messed up as it sounds, the civil rights movement. There's a lot of time that went from there to the civil rights movement, and then Jim Crow. The thing with Jim Crow is simply put that very same racism undercurrent because they couldn't do it anymore as blatant as they had been doing. Well, when Trump came back out, he unleashed that same type of racism that had been just undercurrent. It never left. It was just covered. He allowed everyone to be who they were and who they have always been if you're pale faced. And that's not a slight to the few of them in that community that are not. But as a group, they are. So for me, uh, Trump is not just unhinged. He's America's child. He's truly who we are, good, bad, and ugly. We are very emotionally charged as Americans. We are very subjective. We're not objective, right? We can be very impulsive in our responses, right? Just like Trump. We can be very transactional. What have you done for me? Just like Trump. So far, I mean, he's us and we're him. It's sad to say, but what he represents is what America is. And that's the reality of it. And I think, that's kind of where people like myself, there's like a bittersweet where we're kind of really at the crossroads where this can either make us or break us. And it's looking like the way that most people are okay with this invasion of Venezuela, it's looking like it's going to break us. And what I mean by that is it's going to break the little solidarity that I hope that we would one day have, because there's no way that you can come from this, as far as I'm concerned. Very true is always bubbling under the exactly. And yeah, I agree with you, Cal's double O seven. We're all human. We are, but it's one thing if some of us are not treated as human, and some of us are treated as subhuman because of the color of our skin, because of the hue. No, Venezuela. What do you mean? Break that down to me. But I think I understand where you're coming from. That they're human just like we are, and no one deserves to be deboned, if you will. Let's see what he says. We had to get Russia and China out of Venezuela, just like we had. No, you don't. And see, that's what I mean, Cal 007 P8M. No, we did not have to get Russia and China out of Venezuela. That is none of our business. Just like we had to in Panama. It's a geopolitical thing. This is where I say to you respectfully, that type of mindset is why we are one of the most hated countries in the world. Even though in our mind, delusional, we believe that we're the most loving and respected country in the world. Unfortunately, Cal 007, it is not the responsibility of another country to decide to invade a country because we don't like two other countries that's a part of that country. Do you hear how that sounds? That's very elementary, right? That's very grade school like. When you think about that, excuse my language, but who the hell are we to decide who needs to be in a country and who doesn't need to be in a country? Who gave us that right? Where was that written? That the United States, we have to go throughout all the different other nations. And if Russia or China is in those nations, we have to go and take over that nation. Show me where that law is. Show me where that statute is. And I will literally apologize, give you a whole ringamarole, if you will, about uh, the fact that that's okay. I'm sorry, but I have been over the world and I've been in the military. We're not hated. That's more. If you believe that, okay, because I also have been in other places, including Africa, and that's not the case. They actually know more about us than we do. They know about our true story than just his story, which is based on white lies, based on whitewashing, based on counter storytelling. Let's see here. I used to live in Barbados and I have family there. I don't blame PM Motley for me either. Listen, when I tell you I applauded that lady, and I've loved her since forever, Queen. I have, but when she said what she said, I was like, you know what? Exactly. And she was so calm with it, very calm, very uh, regal, if you will, very presidential, right? She let it be known that no, we're not okay with this. And some, I remember some person on the news was trying to get her to say something about taking in Venezuelans or something. She's like, no, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go. You're not going to try to put me into that bubble. What I will say is there has to be some type of dialogue about what took place and why it took place. And we're going to get to the bottom of it because there's still more information that we don't know. She was very diplomatic about it. I love her. She's the reason why I would want to go to Barbados to go and live. I'm not going to lie. That's one of the countries. That and St. Kitts. Those two. Those are two on my top list. Let's see. I'm sorry if you believe that's your choice, Cal 007. But we didn't invade Venezuela. We didn't invade. They took out the dictator and left the rest of government in power for a reason. Actually, I want you to do more research on that, and also look at that interview that I was mentioning with Stephen Miller, who's the deputy chief of staff, who's like the second in command, not JD Vance, the second in command under our POTUS. He actually said just the opposite. When Tapper asked him about the lady and her taking charge, Steve Miller basically laughed at that suggestion and basically said the Venezuelan people and the oil businessmen and everybody else would not be okay with this woman being in charge. Very misogynistic. Check it out. You'll see it. But we didn't invade Venezuela. We didn't. We didn't invade. They took out one dictator and left the rest of, yeah. So in order for you to take out the dictator, you have to invade a country, right? So that's kind of, I'm not sure about that statement because you actually invaded another territory to take him out. And I ask you, Cal 007, Xi Jinping in China, fentanyl, they you know this, between I think it was like 11 kilograms of fentanyl between 2016 2023 came from China. Why aren't we invading them? Over 90% of opium, I think it's opium, is